Welcome to We Won't Finish This Podcast, a writer's room show where we pitch movies to each other that we'll never make. I'm Zeebs.
Spaceman.
I'm Savage.
Tonight, Spaceman is pitching the movie, and Savage and I have no idea what it is, not even the genre, but regardless of that, we still crack jokes the whole time. It's a comedy podcast. But why don't you get right into it? What you got for us, Spaceman?
All right. This story, in the year 2220, humanity has begun to spread further into the solar system.
So 200 years.
Yep. So
Okay.
One day, the discovery is made that leads to the secret of immortality being unlocked. What will humankind do with this discovery?
Well, I imagine they'd live forever.
You would think.
It's the logical thing.
Yeah, it's a logical thing. Now, I say that summary, and that's really what I wanted to write. What I have here isn't nearly as good. But we're gonna trudge through it. But this is the theme of this one here. I really just went into this thinking that it was such kind of a unique concept. And we'll get into. I got a little bit of world building to do here first, but which is the concept of humanity is starting to get overpopulated on Earth. So that's kind of leading us to want to expand out into the stars.
I've noticed.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what leads us to wanting to go out into the stars. But as we progress out there, obviously it gets a little bit easier to have people that are immortal because by definition they can't die. They're gonna continue to exist and be people. We got to have places to put people. So I went into this.
You said up in the stars?
Well, yes. We're
Space travel is time consuming, so it would be beneficial to be immortal.
So
you'll still be alive by the time you get to where you're going.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of nailed it. That's really what I was going for.
You have to kind of price in the travel time.
Yeah, but
is what you're saying.
So I'll do a little bit of world building here, but here's the thing, and I'll let you marinate on it for a minute. The secret to immortality was discovered by corporations. Now, corporations are leading the charge into expanding out into the stars.
Well, that'll go well.
Exactly. You got to think of what the implications are with that. Because, I went in here thinking, the traditional route is, you would want, governments and everything doing this, but, they're not going to put the resources into this. You've got, Amazon, you got Apple, and all these other fictitious companies that want to spread out into the stars. I see them doing it before the governments. And what happens when that happens? You know what I mean?
So commercialized space travel, you're saying?
Yeah, you would think obviously as the world progressed, everything, governments, whatever, are established, but imagine a corporation going and settling on a distant planet. What does that look like? They make the rules.
Let me stop you real quick. Are we talking about space travel or immortality?
It's a little bit of both.
So I understood your point about, it takes so long to get somewhere with space travel, somewhere far, that obviously if you lived forever or much longer, that would be great to kind of price that in or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's we already just have so many people. We're just overflowing each other here. It's a mosh pit.
Earth. It really will be. That is part of my world building. We'll get to in just a second here. I have Earth is just very overpopulated. We're a couple hundred years in the future.
Okay.
We have discovered how to do light speed travel, but not faster than light speed travel. That's the important distinction, because light speed travel, our nearest, I think Alpha Centauri was maybe 5 light years away. I might be wrong on that, but you got to think that's 4 or 5 years. You got to be on a spaceship going there. That's where.
Or sometimes 80 years.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're going somewhere
in this
crazy.
World or universe that we're building here, when you travel closer to the speed of light, are you experiencing time in a different way?
No, I think just a little indigestion. I think we have an ad.
This episode of We Won't Finish This Podcast is sponsored by Pizza Lobo.
It won't give you indigestion.
No, if you're in the Chicago
will not.
area, make sure to stop by Pizza Lobo, recently featured on Hulu's The Bear. Order at pizzalobo.com, caviar, or DoorDash.
Yeah, great reviews.
Got that out of the way.
Wolfpack.
So yes, that is the idea going in here. Now, what I haven't told you guys yet, there is a little spin I did want to put on it. So we're, and we'll get to that point in the story here, but the driving factor I put in here is what's found is very, very limited for this immortality thing. They can't just give it to everybody.
So even if it wasn't corporations in charge, it would already be expensive.
I
Oh, yeah.
think it needs to be subscription based. If you pay like per month.
That'd be pretty good. You got to renew every month, or
No,
you die.
I know I never actually saw the movie, so I don't even know if this is the right connection. But what was the Justin Timberlake movie where they had how much time they had left on a
Oh,
watch?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, he had like
didn't
the
see
clock on his arm, basically.
No,
No, was like, I'm so poor.
But I remember there I saw a scene or a video or something where like they were playing poker for time.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
And so obviously it's like, okay, in that movie the rich guys had obviously somehow this watch would extend your life. I don't know why
Yeah.
everybody couldn't just have it, like why they had to trade the time, why they couldn't all just have it.
Yeah.
But so I'm assuming corporations, whatever, it's going to be rich people. They live
Here's the
very
thing.
long or forever. Subscription base is perfect because that's
Yeah. I mean,
somebody's going to want more.
Yeah, I do like that spin on it. What I had here is essentially like we're kind of talking about this is we're getting more scummy corporations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're kind of dabbling into that territory. So their goal with this,
Well, that's unheard of.
I know, right? But their goal here is they want to build essentially like call it a workforce, colonization force, whatever you want, to distant stars. So you have to essentially apply to get this on the condition that you will serve a 1,000-year contract
You're
working
the
for this
employee.
company.
Sure.
Okay, that's a good angle.
Yeah.
And immortality mixed with like indentured servitude.
Yes.
That's kind of the ultimate evil mix.
Yeah, I agree.
Right there.
Yeah, so that's the idea I had going into this. It
But-
didn't translate well.
So let's explain that more, because the way you told us about this beforehand, you said that you had an idea, you loved it, you sat down to write the outline, and it wasn't it. and you
Yeah,
hated
I had this great idea and I just produced something I just am like, it needs a lot of work.
It just didn't turn
Well,
out. Like
so
I
what
wanted
what
to.
are what are our bullet points?
So let's do a little bit of world building here first. We'll do that. We'll kind of you'll start to see why I don't like this. So all right, like
It's a dark idea, but it's very interesting.
yeah, I know. Like,
I
yeah,
like the
exactly.
idea.
Like, yeah, I really do like that, but it just this story here didn't translate. So really, I'm kind of I'm spilling the beans a little early on this. So it's not really a reveal, but you know what I mean, like that concept, because I want everyone thinking about that as we're kind of going through the story and figuring out what changes essentially we could make here to really make that work. And I said it a little bit in the future. I actually originally wanted this like really present day, to like the very, very beginnings of we've just discovered,
Well,
travel.
at
to
least
the
from what you've
stars.
200 years is not too far in the future, but
Yeah.
as far as like developing technology, that could be
So
a long chunk of time.
yeah, I mean, at least from what you've told us so far, it doesn't require 200 years in the future, other than you're assuming that's how long it takes for them to figure out immortality.
Right, and I have some bullet points that do kind of fit into like the 200 years that would make sense, but it's not
Some
necessary.
gadgets.
You
got
had
some gadgets in there,
mentioned-
don't
Not
you?
necessarily.
You had mentioned that they're traveling to distant stars, so like the planets within our current solar system, we're just like not interested in colonizing those.
So, yeah, I mean, to kind of touch on that quick, like humanity in this story has really spread out throughout our solar system, our current one. So we have established a presence here, so it is around, but you got to think Earth's the only actual livable place.
Interplanetary travel is already happening prior to the start of this movie.
Yeah, yes,
Okay,
agreed.
with
Yeah,
you.
and it'll make sense, when we actually like get started here, but yes.
And that's full too.
What's that?
Each planet is full.
All
too?
the planets are already full down to
No,
the point
right.
where
No.
stars. What's it even like on a star?
But you got to think like
Can't do that.
here we have one Earth. We want to find another Earth. That's really kind of the driving factor of like wanting to go to the distant
Yeah,
places. We'll just
okay.
say they figured it out. Like, hey, here's Earth 2, but it's like 300 light years away. Like
Yeah.
you gotta. That's kind of where I went into.
So
this.
you got to work on the ship, and you have to make it. So that's what it would be. So it's like, if you've ever been on a cruise, it's like there's a lot of stories about people that work on the cruises, the people that serve the dinners and stuff.
Right.
They live on like the lower decks. I hear it's a wild party. They get to travel the world. They're like a lot of like young people and stuff. But in this scenario, the cruise ship maybe is people that want to travel. The rich people want to go across whatever, and you're not immortal.
Yeah.
And you don't have the money to be, so maybe you are going to essentially be a crew worker for this luxurious
Yeah.
travel to wherever that's going to take 60 years.
Yeah.
And they're going to give you that life just to work it. And then maybe at the end you end up plus 10 years on your life.
Yeah.
But you did all this work.
Yeah, it's not bad. I could have written that, but I didn't.
Well, it's just an idea. So that's another book. But
Yeah.
you see what I mean?
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean? Something like that where it's...
You said 1,000-year contract, but if you're immortal, that's kind of still just a drop in the bucket. If
Yes.
it's relative to
And here's the other thing, like
infinity.
what I really didn't write, this doesn't exist in this story. So this is another concept I kind of went in thinking about. What happens when that 1,000 years is up? You've traded the life that you know to become immortal and be sent off to some distant planet.
Sitting at a poker table with Justin Timberlake.
Right, exactly. He's like just killing you with bringing in your time. But no, like I just what's Earth like? All your family and friends are gone. Like you have absolutely nothing after that 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So,
I also want to point out that so it's all perspective based, the time, and your perception of it. So like, when you're 5 years old, a year is 1/5 of your life. It takes forever.
Yeah.
But as you get older, the years go by faster. I'm sure we could cue a song to kick on as I'm
I
saying
said
this.
maybe.
Yeah. So anyways, that's if you're immortal, 1,000 years is nothing. If you've already lived for thousands of years.
Yeah.
However, we're assuming time that the immortality was discovered within the last 200 years. So everybody's
Right.
still fairly young
Yep.
by those guidelines, unless we decide to change them.
Yeah, and there is like a story I
So
read.
1,000 years is still like holy shit.
Yeah.
Even if you were 150.
Yeah.
Somebody says, yeah, you're going to spend 1,000 years cleaning toilets on the cruise ship.
Right, and like, and going into this too, I actually kind of figured like maybe they might be doing like pretty dangerous work too. Like, I had that idea of like maybe they get shipped off to this distant planet or whatever, but it's still like you're going to be, mining resources. Like
You're not all going to make it.
I mean,
Yeah,
it makes
exactly.
sense. You send
Yeah.
the immortal people to go and do the most dangerous thing. That's like if you don't have a sense of smell, you go and do the stinkiest job that no one else wants to do.
Yeah, but however, like immortality, but you can die. Like you can be killed. It's like it's not like someone's gonna rip your head off and you're just gonna grow a new body. And these I wanted to keep it really, really grounded. Like there's a part where I almost dance into, and like Zeebs would be scared here. It's almost getting into superpower type territory, but like I walked it back immediately because I didn't like the idea.
No, if you go into it, I'm fine with that. I'm going to criticize it most likely, just because if it's Marvel DC style superhero,
Yeah,
there's a few Well, we're not doing superheroes this episode.
No,
maybe.
we're not.
We'll see.
It didn't match what I was going for. Like I really
But
wanted.
I'm going to be
very-
there when we do superheroes.
Well, I know.
I've got some things to say.
But yeah, I really wanted it to. It's immortality, but like with the mortality. You know what I mean? You just can't age. You're
So you
neutral.
say young
Yeah.
until you stop. You don't re-up your subscription. Now are you just old overnight?
Have they stopped the aging process, or do they reverse? Like if you're old, you could be like a younger version of
I think we
yourself.
need to discuss what this
Yeah.
is. Are we talking about like is it like a medicine, a shot they give you? Is it a machine?
So I mean, into the story a little bit here. Like basically, we'll start with our main character having an accident. Like with this discovery, we'll get into it. Yeah, right. He had to change pants afterwards several times, but no, like it starts there, and then it kind of develops. So like he's the first, but like not the last. So I like in here I guess I'll save that for later in the story so we get into that part. But I did feel the ground rules for this was it just stops aging. It doesn't reverse aging. It doesn't make you immune to disease or anything like that. I kind of pictured it more of like, say you have an immortal person, but they get something wrong where they need an organ transplant. That could still happen.
So you still get sick, so you'd still need to treat you. It's not a guarantee,
right?
Is what you're saying?
Yeah, you could still get into a car crash. Like there's all that.
But
stuff.
you're talking about illness, though.
Right.
You said a transplant. I'm assuming
it's in that. Like I don't. It's nothing in here. Like I don't have to keep it. But I kind of went in with that just mortality.
You could drop
concept.
the $30 million on the immortality and then still get cancer next year.
Yeah, but you would still live, but your body would be failing. So you'd be like hooked up to all kinds of machines.
Ugh.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's still like I wanted it kind of grounded in that fashion.
Is it reversible?
yeah, I mean, you could essentially
Well,
get all
a
the cancer
bullet.
removed. You can, yeah,
I
you
mean, a
could get.
bullet will reverse your immortality.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, yes, yeah, to a point. If you're talking sick in a hospital bed, yes. Getting
Just
into
cancel
a
your
crash,
subscription.
no.
And
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of where I saw this. Is I didn't want it to be some like, oh, all of a sudden you have some godlike powers and like stuff like that. It's like, no, you just, as long as you just basically stayed in a room for
You're
your
just
whole
saying
life,
that
didn't
your
do anything,
heart
you're
will
fine.
pump though, because you can still get sick. Your body can still fail. This isn't great.
No, it's not. Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Yeah, but like,
This is the Gen 1. This is the iPod, touch.
yeah, but then
of
like
immortality.
I kind of thought to myself, if you can't die, how many people are so afraid of death that they would still take this, regardless of those ground rules I set there?
But you do
and-
stop aging.
Yes, you do stop aging.
So you're
yes.
okay. So let's say you were a rich guy and you do this in your 20s,
Yeah.
right? And then you have a family, but you're a dickhead, or maybe your kids are, or both, and you like cut off your son. He could be like an
Older than
man,
you. Yeah,
and
that'd
you're
be
just
weird.
like a ripped 25-year-old forever. You're
Yeah.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah, exactly.
And
he just
and
never
he's-
bought it for his birthday. He can't have
Yeah. Like Paul Rudd's son is probably like a fat bald guy. Like
it.
by now.
That's probably real life too.
That's what I'm saying. Is
Yeah.
That's probably the reality. Like,
All right. But all right, like, yeah, like, obviously we spent a good amount of time in the idea. Like, I do expect us to kind of cruise through some of this stuff because it is just kind of point A to point B type stuff. But we have elaborated on the idea. I really like that concept. I really liked that concept going into it, and it just didn't translate. It just didn't. So, keep that in our heads as we're kind of moving through this as to like what we might be able to adjust, change, like completely rewrite, whatever, to kind of get us more in that territory.
So this is potentially like Futurama, like you're working on a delivery ship as an indentured servant, basically flying from one planet to another for 1,000 years in order to eventually maybe like get an apartment on Uranus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're
it's a good goal.
It is a good goal. So yeah, it's like that was kind of the
I had to
spirit
work
behind
that
this. So all right, we'll get into the world building. So
Just to kind of clarify that, I picture it as like, okay, so you're a young kid, you're 20 years old. You get a job. I'm going to work on the ship. It's going to take me 1,000 years to get there. I'm going to do the job. When I leave, they're going to keep me alive the whole time. I get the experience. I get fed, room and board, whatever. And then when you're done, what are you promised? Like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm 20, but I'm going to get a free 10 years of the subscription
right, and like
of frozen aging.
yeah, for what my idea was, it was
I like
kind
the
of-
subscription. I'm glad we brought this up because they're gonna up the price every month,
Oh,
and you're
yeah.
gonna be like, "What am I getting for this?"
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean,
like
right.
what's
yeah.
the overhead? It couldn't have gone up.
Yeah, I do see it as like, once that contract's up, like that's it. Like you're just off on your own. You have nothing really. I would say you probably get some quote unquote pension,
So-
we'll call it that.
To simplify it, let's call it a subscription on freezing your aging.
Sure.
Because I feel like, just to clarify that, when you stop paying it, your money
Like if
runs
you fall
out.
behind, you start, you're
You're-
a month older.
You're not just 80 years old overnight.
Yeah.
you just start aging when
So-
when your payment didn't.
As long as you
So-
keep up.
So with this
regular.
idea,
Yeah.
it's not in my story. That doesn't exist in here. So I mean, if you find spots to work it in, sure. I'm not opposed. But yeah, I didn't have subscription in there. For me, it was kind of just like it's a one-time thing. It's like it's so crazy expensive. That's why you're working for this company for 1,000 years. Like that's it. Like then you're just immortal.
So that's what it'd be. So you're the kid, you get working this job, they give you the shot the first day. Okay, we're on the ship, you're not aging. And then you got
It's a shot.
I don't know. Maybe,
It
what do
could be. It doesn't really
We'll
matter.
say it's a
It's a
shot.
MacGuffin.
It's
It's
an
like-
aging,
It's like
freezing.
a face cream.
It's a
or something.
preservative right into your veins.
You're pickled.
Yeah, this is how we get bread to be good for the 20 days of shipping and 2 weeks at your house. But anyway, so it's like that. You get the shot, and then that's pretty much what it is. You work, you do a good job, you keep getting the shot. You got the free room and board. Everybody's there is young. You're partying. You're
Yeah.
traveling through space. It's exciting. Like
Yeah.
I like the comparison to the cruise ship.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if
Yeah.
you guys have heard any stories or have any idea about the people that
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
you
Yeah,
know
I
they're
just
from
live
they're
on
from
cruise
all
ships.
over the world. They're generally pretty young, and they're like, yeah, I've been doing this a year and a half. I've been everywhere, and they're not supposed to party with any of the cruise people, but they like, they go. From what
Yeah.
I hear, it's a party amongst the
Your
crew.
board
Yeah.
is taken care of. You just work during the day, and then At night you can
Yeah.
chill.
Kind of a free spirit kind of
Or whatever.
gig,
Yeah.
you know.
But remember, these companies are probably evil. So you gotta remember
Well,
that's
I'm sure Carnival Cruise Line is as well.
probably.
So that's I'm sure it's I haven't seen the sleeping quarters that the alleged party's happening
yeah.
at, but I'm just saying that it's like I like the comparison.
Yeah.
I won't get hung up on it. But.
Yeah, no, and it's fine. Like I said, like my story sucks. So whatever we can do to make it better is great. So if you have any comments to make it better too, please put those in the chat.
I think we're alone.
We probably are. But anyways,
So it is a shot though, and you're saying like you have to get boosters every so often.
I think that it freezes your aging until maybe it has like you're frozen for 2 weeks, you're gonna need a shot in 2 weeks, or else you're gonna start aging again. Maybe.
Yeah, I just had it as a
Everyone's just
one
gonna
time
be a
thing. It's just
junkie.
done. It's just like that's it. You're immortal.
Well,
that's it.
yeah, there would be a black market maybe, unless it's just. Well, I guess you could just go pay for it at a doctor, but.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of ways to go with something like if you were to make it a drug.
Right.
Well, what about like cryogenic freezing? Like, what if you're just you had to sleep in a chamber every night or something?
So you're
not
saying you would
vampires.
age half the day.
They're not vampires.
What if it is a vampire thing?
There's
though?
work
like,
to be
there's
done.
like a stipulation there.
There's work to be done. You can't be frozen. You got to clean. These people need lemon meringue pie.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get into the world building here. So I just kind of set what I thought were some decent, just things going on in this particular universe for this story. So I did, since it's in the future, I did have, I needed a reason for overpopulation, us starting to like kind of crowd. And I have this as, like just basically global warming in a couple hundred years. Where is it going to be at? Well, in a couple hundred years, we're probably going to have some some reduced shorelines.
It's not just that the population's increasing, the livable square
space
footage
is
of the
decreased.
earth is decreasing.
Yeah. So, and I don't want to get too crazy into that, but I just needed a driving factor for it. So that's kind of what I landed on is just, it's
That's
got
why
to
it's
that
an
point.
emergency.
Right, exactly. Like that's why we needed to get beyond Earth, because Earth is not in a great spot. It's still livable, but it's not good.
I've actually heard it's in the perfect place. So I disagree.
The Goldilocks zone, if
Hard
even.
disagree.
So yeah, that's kind of the driving factor in getting into these like just these mega cities, so we don't really spend any time there, but it's just kind of to signify the overpopulation.
Yeah.
A previously undiscovered and extremely rare resource was found in an asteroid, and that allowed us to build starships. And I wanted a little bit of grounding that as well. I didn't really know how best to do it, so the starships in this I had kind of working as, say we found some kind of like crystals or something. It doesn't really matter.
Unobtainium.
Yeah, exactly. It could be anything, but basically treat that like an amplifier. You still need fuel. So it would be like I just chose helium-3 because that's a pretty common one in sci-fi type stuff. So you need helium-3 to actually that is your fuel, and then you have this as like a magnifier or whatever, and then that's how you can achieve the light speed travel. So I just wanted to set some rules there just so I had something. And then, let's see here.
I don't like rules.
Well, I've got a few more, so you're going to have to deal with it.
So, if we're
Homework sucks. All right,
people
sorry.
that were leaving Earth, the first to colonize are going to be like the richest people, right? And they're going to go and establish.
I actually see it as more of like it's a necessity. So you're sending the workforce ahead. They're the guys that are going to be like, they're going to set up that first like shack.
They got to build the hot tubs.
Yeah.
For
They're
when,
going to
that
for when the
makes
rich
sense.
guys get there.
Yeah, that's kind of how I pictured it. Is like, essentially these corporations, like we're talking a couple hundred, years in the future. The mega corporations now, like they're in the trillions and trillions of dollars. They have so much expendable income. While the earth, the world's poor, whatever.
Yeah.
So I have that.
They're flying away, just going ha ha.
Yeah.
As like a smoldering planet is behind them.
So that's why I have them as kind of like the driving factor in settling these places, because it's just making more money for them. Like,
Sure.
So, and it's giving, I'm sure it's going to be insanely expensive to move there and whatever, but they need a workforce there too. So, and it takes a long time to settle these places.
So they've applied the all-inclusive model
Yeah.
to their starships.
Yeah.
And it allows rich guys to go in, and these guys will give you food. Don't worry, these guys are immortal. You can talk their ear off all day. They have all the time in the world. and they're going to give you the shots on you get a free subscription. It's included, the entire travel. And then you get there, and what's there? Where are we going?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, that's...
Should have read the fine print.
So I'm saying, did we find it? What's the destination on the starship? Just one of these, an Earth-like planet?
Yeah, I mean,
untouched.
Like that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, and like I wish the story was this coherent, but it just isn't. So moving on to a little bit of the world building, and then we'll get into the actual story, which is okay.
So
the idea
they're
is way
like
better.
space pioneers. They're going to, the uncharted territory to like make sure it's cool.
Yeah, right. They need people there first to establish something. But it's going to take a really long time to get there. So you got to have that gap in between. They got to get there. They got to.
You need some indentured servants if you're going to make this thing be fun.
Yeah, because let's say it takes you 200 years to get there. Well, if it takes you 5 to set up, well, now like you need probably I guess you could have a gap in between, but
we need a starship to go, and then they're going to call back and say, "All right, we're ready."
Exactly.
Send
yeah,
them.
yeah. Because you would think they could come 5 years later, but not really. They don't know if you got there. So they got to wait for you to actually get there to send the signal back. Like that's
well, and they don't even know where they're
going.
going probably. So they got to get to this planet. They have to pick a location. Say this is where we build it.
Yeah.
This is what we're gonna do. Now we got to get the resources. Like,
and they can kind of predict from afar, like maybe this planet will be pretty good, but they don't know until for sure that they get on there, and they're like, this one's, just a big dust storm all the time. We shouldn't have even tried to come here.
so will the rich guys even go first, or do you send
I don't think
your
so.
loser
Not
friends?
first, I guess.
Yeah.
You send your
That
loser
answers my
friends,
question.
and you say, "Hey, Bill, check us out. I bought you a ticket. Don't worry, man. I got you. Check it out. Yeah, enjoy.
Yeah, let me know how it goes.
Let me know." And then you wait. You wait 1,000 years
Send me a postcard.
for an email from Bill who says,
Hey, it sucks here.
"This sucks pretty bad. Are you on your way?" And you just leave it
hey,
on
have
red.
you guys left yet? Or
Just leave them on red.
Yep. So in this one, like, here's another thing I did kind of
Left
like.
yet.
Here's a piece of the story I did kind of like, but I didn't really use it too much. In the center, like, well, not the center, but at the same time as this story, I have like Mars has been essentially terraformed, so to the point where it is livable by humanity. And now there's a couple different things with that. For one, it doesn't super work for the story either, and that's why I don't really like.
So let's put it this way: if you had the option, right? Let's say this was happening, Earth, it's just a smoldering mess, and you can go to Mars and it's livable,
Yeah.
or you can take the 1,000-year, nobody's ever been there, we don't even heard of this planet before, we don't know anything about it. You're going to be one of the first people to see its details. Trip. Mars is going to be the Carnival Cruise.
Yeah,
and
but you can die on Mars.
The 1,000-year, well, you can die anywhere.
You can die anywhere, but
The
you might not.
1,000-year, I think, would be the big price tag. That's
Yeah,
your
maybe.
Disney Cruise Line, or I don't know whatever the expensive ones are.
Norwegian.
so is there
I'm a
going to be
Carnival guy.
like multiple competitors then? Like there's probably Mars is established and that's taken over by Globo Corp or whatever, and maybe like another smaller company pops up and it's like a little Ocean Gate spaceship that
Mom and pop-
like
mom
that's the
and
budget
pops.
version.
The mom and pops planet relocation service.
Going to the Dick's Sporting Goods Center on Titan. All right.
I know a guy who
DIY.
can get you to a meteor that's pretty livable.
That's pretty sweet.
It's not bad, and not too crowded.
Mars is out of the picture, but have you been to the dark side of the moon?
Yeah, right. So yeah, I did like the idea of kind of Mars being terraformed, but it's just taking like a super long time, and it's like pretty fresh that you're able to kind of move there. So it's kind of like humanity's still just kind of figuring it out, and like trying to get people there to like get them out of like the mega cities and whatnot. So I see that being a little bit more like just like kind of chaotic, really, if anything, and then this stuff kind of comes up too. So it's kind of maybe concurrent. Like, I don't know. We'd have to kind of, shop it a little
How
bit.
many people live on Mars?
Oh, I have no idea. I'm assuming just several colonies are established. But,
So from what you're
you know.
describing is that Mars is the Gen 1 planet, and people aren't ready to be early adopters.
Maybe.
Like
Sure.
they're just kind of like, yeah, it seems nice, but how's that going to look in 3 years?
Right.
Is it
Yeah,
going to
maybe.
hold up? I'm going to wait for them to
Like-
do a firmware update, then I'll buy it.
Awfully dusty there still.
The couple colonies have like rebel forces that start to fight back against the tyranny.
Yeah. But yeah, so, like I had the idea for Mars being like, technically inhabitable, but probably has a lot of challenges in itself. But it's like, you don't need your helmet there.
But
It's
Earth 2's out there and it's ready to go.
They're
Yeah,
growing
that's-
potatoes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the driving factor I see. Where it's like Mars is only like, kind of, we'll call it terraformable because of where it sits in the solar system. You're not going to get on an asteroid and, like get an atmosphere, like none of that kind of stuff. So anywhere else, like you can have some colonies or whatever, but it's all enclosed,
So I see that as they're scared to take the risk because they're like, hey, this is man-made. We don't know if this is going to hold up, whatever. And it's the cheap option because Earth 2, we know Earth. We know
Yeah.
what we're going to find. We know what should be there. We can make this work, like whatever. Where Mars, it's like, hey, if that air filter machine dies, we're all dead.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like I feel like that
Could,
that would
yeah.
maybe be the political
Still
argument.
got some bugs to work out. Basically,
Families are being divided. They're like, we're just going to go to Mars. We can afford it. We don't want the debt. And they're just like, take out the loan. We're going to Earth too, you bitch. And that would be,
Yeah.
I bet, yeah, you'd hear all these wild stories on Earth, like, oh, the great Earth 2, the promised land or whatever, all those possibilities. And then you sign up for this contract and it turns out that it's not what you want to be doing.
Yeah,
and now you're
there's
stuck
still
with that.
dinosaurs.
Right. It's just plain a dumpster fire. Like,
There's
it's just awful.
dinosaurs.
Space dinosaurs.
And it's very scary.
Yeah, and then you're just sitting there in a spaceship looking at a planet full of dinosaurs. Like, the hell do we do?
Can you imagine riding a bus for 1,000 years and then you get there and a T-Rex just rips off the front half of it and they're like, get out.
Yeah, we gotta go, guys. Back it
Time
up.
time
Take
to
your
get out.
TVs and go.
You're the ones that are supposed to build the shelter. Get to it. You're the first ones.
All right. So I guess I should probably start the story.
Yeah, we're 30 minutes in. We should
Yeah, I
probably
know.
get
That's
going on what
honestly,
you
it's
got.
okay though, because like really we can gloss over a lot of this because like the story itself isn't that great.
We
I've
have.
actually
We
like,
have been.
I'm glad that we're kind of touching way more on the concept.
Yeah,
'cause I like that more.
You said you didn't like your story.
Exactly.
You
yeah.
said you had the concept, you started writing the story, and it wasn't the concept. And you
Exactly.
were just like, what's going on here?
Yeah. I got like 6 pages in. I'm like, what the hell is this? And then I just finished the last one. I'm like, well, send it.
Like, well, it is called We Won't Finish This Podcast, so let's see if these guys can do this.
Yeah, exactly. It needs a lot of help. All right. So now
we
I
won't
have
finish this planet.
Yeah. I have our story starting on just like it's a mining operation that's taking place on Titan. The dig itself, it's in a cave under a giant dome, so that offers a little bit of protections from the environment, but it's all done in just some heavy spacesuits. And now I will say with this section, like I played Starfield pretty recently, so I was a little inspired there, but I took it a little bit direction. But that's where some of this is coming from. It was kind of unavoidable with how I ended up doing it.
Okay.
But one day, a new section of the the cave system is scheduled to be blasted open. So this doesn't typically interfere with regular scheduled workflow. So on this day, pretty much business as usual. The main character, I just named him David Andrews. He's working in his own section, clearing away a part of a cave wall. So I do kind of figure it as some kind of machine that he's using. Like, it doesn't really matter what, but essentially just kind of clearing away some rocks.
They're mining for unobtainium.
Basically, yeah, you can
Okay.
call it that.
Where do they mine it?
I mean, they're just looking for resources in
You said
general.
it on Titan.
Yeah, it's on
Oh, that's
Titan.
right.
Like, I have no idea what's on Titan, so it could literally be anything. I see it more as like the corporations are spreading out and they're starting to mine these places just for raw materials. Like, you need metals to build habitats. Like I kind of just saw it more as that, just kind of just the necessary stuff. They're not looking for anything like fancy in particular. They might be tipped off to some of those, we'll just say the light speed crystals or whatever, but they know those exist and they're getting them. They're not huge in supply maybe. So I saw this as more just like, yeah, we're just chopping down wood to build a house. Essentially, it's more of that type of feel. So
They're just building the resort,
yeah, exactly.
essentially.
Yeah.
You're talking about the first landers on Earth too.
Yeah. Right.
That's where we're going.
I mean that's further along. This part is just like this is the very start. So we're just still in the same solar system. We haven't discovered anything with immortality or anything like that yet. So
I think the way that it would start would maybe be on Earth too. They're building this resort and it's perfect. We have a chance to start over. But this is the beginning of the movie.
yeah.
Is like they've landed, right, and everybody's young and they're fit and blah blah blah. But then it kind of zooms back. You see how they got there. You see the state of Earth. You see what's going on with Mars. And then we can start a dynamic where the second starship is heading to Earth 2 in anticipation of it being complete, but maybe shit's falling apart on Earth 2. The workers, like, maybe some guy's there, but he, like, got fired somehow, and he's now aging, and he's very upset about it. You know what I mean? Or something. Like, it could almost be like, there's problems going on Earth too, like almost like terrorism or something, because it's like this guy wants whatever his dispute is. He's like, I don't see why I have to be the only one to age and die on a planet where nobody ages and dies.
Yeah,
you know, like that's what I could see the rift. Maybe they brought hundreds or thousands of staff because it's a huge starship. They need to build this huge resort. They need staff to be there ready and trained and blah blah blah. That's kind of like what I could see a good dynamic of going back and forth to, like, things are falling apart, and then the hopeful rich people that are like headed there, like, it's gonna be great.
It's gonna be so good.
You know,
we got beach property. But and I liked the idea of, like, how does a corporation kind of establish a colony on, like, a distant planet too? I kind of liked, kicking that idea around in my head, because it's not a government.
Well, you wouldn't have to buy it. You just show up and
it would just be like one giant, like, cheesy logo.
Yeah, it's just a big McDonald's sign.
Well, it's just planting your flag, essentially.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I mean,
but
like,
it's a corporation instead.
That's kind of the whole Elon Musk thing with Mars, where it's like he's talking about how he's going to go colonize Mars. Maybe. Who knows? But it's just one of those, like, there's nobody to stop him.
Right.
So that's why it would be his.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's really what it is.
Right. I love that concept. Yeah, exactly. Like the government, what's the government going to say? Like, what government is going to say what?
There's nobody to stop you.
Yeah.
There's literally no laws there. There's no police. Like, it's just, you would have to be showing up with a plan of, like, we're going to build this thing. Here's how how the laws are going to work. Here's our security force. Here's whatever. And I imagine there'd probably be stragglers, not just the workers. Maybe the example I gave of the guy that quit, but, like, you're going to get there. It's going to be this resort surrounded by just an entire planet of wilderness.
Yeah.
So there probably would be people that get there and they say, you know what, fuck this. I'm going to go live in the woods.
Like a tribe.
There could be, like, tribes surrounding a very lavish and futuristic civilization on Earth too.
Yeah.
Of people that
like occasionally pillage for supplies or
something. Maybe they stole some things, like some technology things that are going to help them, but for the most part, like, they're roughing it. And I don't know, that could be another kind of dynamic. There could be a lot going on here.
They end up being the ones who stumble upon the light speed crystals, and so they're the ones that have the resource that the corporations want.
Or they control a dig site or something, like, somehow. I don't know. We're getting further with it. The concept's got legs.
Yeah, it does. It really does. It's hard to execute.
You somehow showed up with a concept and unrelated notes.
I kind of did. I guess I kind of did. So all right. Well,
you really could have done something with this.
I know. I could have. We could have finished something.
Or started.
Yeah, at least started.
At least start the podcast.
Yeah, I know. I'm just going to apologize, but I'm going to continue this story. So, he's clearing out this, section of wall, whatever. And as he's clearing it, here's where we get our, basically our unobtainium. He starts clearing away a wall. He sees this kind of bright light behind it. So he's just basically fascinated with this. Like, we've got this, scheduled blast that's coming up at a different part here. So at one point here, and I'm kind of glad I'm glossing through this, a manager essentially kind of comes around the corner and is like, hey, what the hell are you doing? Like, get to a safe place. Like, it's like we're not
standing
stopping
on dynamite.
Yeah, basically, like, it's not stopping, like, all the workflow, but, like, they still got to pull people back for like 5 minutes while the bomb goes off. So the manager kind of sees the light thing happening too. And he's like, oh, what the hell? Like. So they're both kind of sitting there, and as the countdown gets closer and closer to 0, you hear obviously a big explosion. Ground shakes everywhere, debris falling from the cave ceiling. And this big section of, like, this light. Essentially, it's like light in like raw material form. You know?
Radioactive material.
Yeah, kind of. So David basically trips, falls into it, bashes his helmet. Helmet goes right open. He scrapes it and ends up breathing in, what he scraped away from this like, raw light
Space
material.
dust.
Yeah, exactly.
Turns into a baby immediately.
Yeah, not quite.
There's too much immortality juice.
Too much, too much, immortal blow happening, and yeah.
You're only supposed to do a bump of that.
He did the whole thing.
Too much.
But yeah, so this happens. It's the atmosphere isn't really. I'm picturing it not super breathable here. Like it's under a dome, but that's more of kind of like protections from the outside. Whatever. I don't really know.
Yeah.
So this happens. He's starting to gasp and black out. The manager just has duct tape and just like slaps it over his helmet to try to keep him alive. And then he just like goes unconscious.
I think the first person to come in contact with it has to do way too much, and it's just like detrimental.
But there's still a corporate guy standing behind him, wringing his hands, saying, how can we sell this,
We'll
though?
market
How can we
this,
make
yeah.
money on this? He's
We'll
dead.
dilute it down a
It
little.
looks terrible, but let's calm down, everybody.
I haven't done a bump of it yet.
There's money to be made. Has anyone tried a small amount? Has anyone tried putting it in breakfast
I
cereal?
think in short, it is got to be like kind of like radiation or whatever. Like in short term, you don't realize the effects, but then like as time progresses, then it gets worse and worse.
Has anyone smoked it?
So what if that's how they discover the immortality? Is it's like a kind of sick guy is working some manual labor job, mining or something, and he's
got coal dust like lungs from mining.
like this he's on his last leg, but he's just
Sure.
got to keep doing it for his family. And then he starts working some new mine, and they're finding some new thing, and they're doing research on it. And it's interesting. The scientific community is interested. All he knows is they're paying him to do it. And he's breathing a bunch of it and stuff. And like maybe his wife's like, "You've already got black lung. You need to get out of these jobs, whatever."
Just walking around like Bane.
But nobody starts getting healthier.
Yeah.
What if there's a guy in the
Reverse.
mines that he's getting like younger and more like energetic and whatever, and that's how the discovery is made. Is that they're just like, somehow these guys should be. Usually our
Fountain
workers
of
are
youth.
dead in 6 months. These guys are doing great.
Yeah, they're healthier somehow.
Yeah, like sick guys are well now, and they're just kind of like, what's going on down there? And then they find out that they're like, that's what this stuff does. We need to inject it on a subscription plan.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, David awakens, sometime later. He's in a medical ward. He starts to stir. He can see medical staff kind of frantically coming around his bedside. They also, hey, take it easy. He finally begins to compose himself. He can feel like a burning sensation in his chest, from inhaling this crap. Asks for water. Hey, how long was I out? Hospital staff starts to explain, it's been 2 days since the accident. We've been monitoring you. Basically, your heart stopped multiple times. Basically, whatever you found while you were mining, it's never showed up on any scans. It's completely unidentified previous to this, and you just did like a fat rail of it.
Right.
It's
like fusing with your DNA.
Yeah. So they don't know what the hell this is at this point. It's a couple of days, and this guy just inhaled some space dust. Like, they don't know what to make of it yet. So he's kind of just
quarantined. They got him behind plastic glass or whatever that they're studying him now.
Right, yeah, he's in the hamster ball, whatever. And then, he just kind of lays back and, asks a few questions, and he's starting to just kind of, he's in his head, I'm thinking, he's like, I'm going to die. Like, how am I even alive at this point?
My wife's going to be pissed. She told me this would happen.
Right. she knew. I didn't listen.
She was right. I was wrong. Can you please just kill me?
Yeah.
Just let me die before she shows up. It's not going to be fun.
So
I'll never hear the end of it.
yeah, just please don't tell her.
Especially if I'm immortal.
That's a good one. All right, so after a few days of rest and frequent tests, David actually feels great. Several weeks go by. Doctors decide to have David begin to start doing some physical testing. He's excelling like at everything that's thrown at him. And that's where I literally wrote in here, not to a superhuman extent. But I picture this as more just like this person is kind of in peak health. Like they're great.
Yeah.
All of their vital signs
Right.
are awesome. They're just doing really, really well.
So not superhuman strength, but to the extent that he's as healthy and fit as he could be now.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to keep it grounded and not dabble into any kind of like powers type things. Like I did think at one point it might be kind of like interesting to have some kind of like visible sign of like, the immortality, but I didn't really know what.
Well, I think it would just be I like the idea of the guy starting out being like sick or old or already injured or something, and then he just starts kind of becoming energized and younger, acting again. Maybe he's like actually like just glowing, looking like healthier skin or something like that, where it's just like, wow, this guy looked like he was on death's door before.
Yeah.
And that would be like, that way we can skip all the superhero kind of stuff, and it just is about literally the immortality.
Yeah.
It's not about superhuman strength or being better than a regular person. It's just being
And then
your optimal self.
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, I'm doing great. And he like springs out of bed and starts walking around and just hits by a bus. And then that's lights out.
it.
Is done.
And maybe it didn't work.
Gets sucked into a spaceship turbine.
So
or
that's how
whatever
we
the hell.
know, yeah. That,
Yeah.
Oh, they can die.
it's immortal, but not really.
Yeah, immortality with an asterisk. So, doctors keep doing tests, whatever. One day, he sat down in front of a group of doctors and company representatives. This is the day that he's been fearing. He thinks going into this, they're going to tell me I'm, going to die any day now. I'll be dead any day now. So, he sits down, he's going in with this expectation, but, he's just sad going into it because he's just, resigning to his fate. Medical staff comes to, sorry, 1 second here. Actually, my notes are so bad, I skipped a whole section.
What if he got, he got such a high dose that now he has a little, like, premonition or something? I know we're getting into superpowers, but, like, that one guy that took too much, like, now he can kind of predict the future, or
He can live so
He, like,
long
knows
he
what's
sees the
happening.
future. I don't know. I don't know
how that would affect
how
the
we'll possibly explain
the
this in the
plot
next
here.
20 minutes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so for here, I'll kind of, this part really is not important, honestly. So what happens is, he's basically fetched by actually like a group of doctors, we'll just say like nurses, aides, whatever, and some security guards. And he starts kind of think like, well, hold on, like we didn't have really any guards here before. Like the sudden appearance of some armed, like burly looking dudes to come and get him. He's like, okay, what the hell is this? So they take him to this meeting, and it's just like a bunch of company people there, a bunch of doctors, whatever. So they sit him down, and they basically just tell him, like, I kind of wrote it out, and this isn't great either, but so, Mr. Andrews, thank you. The company thanks you for all the work you did here on Titan. Our frontline workers are what makes this company not just a success on Earth, but the whole solar system. You can see I'm going for corporate-y bullshit.
Yeah, they give him a plaque.
Yep. The excellent medical team here on Titan is determined that not only are you in incredible health and condition, but tests have shown that you are no longer aging. This is a clear and direct result of the incident that took place in the mine with the as yet to be determined material. The company has decided that due to your condition, additional testing is required. It was agreed upon in your contract under Section 43, Clause 19.2, that the company may take you to one of its own medical facilities for extensive examination. We will be moving you to a facility on Earth to begin these tests immediately. So, in this story, he's basically just being kidnapped as an experiment.
I like how you point out in this story, because in a weird way, I do feel like I'm watching a movie at the theater, but I can hear the loud Godzilla roars coming through the wall of the theater next door.
And it's like, man, that sounds so much better in there.
Where you're just like, man, there's kind of like, this doesn't add up with what's going on over here.
Yeah.
So is the cruise thing gone?
No, I mean, I never had the cruise thing in here to begin with.
This is also this is
Your idea.
Yeah, that wasn't my idea.
Fair enough. But either way, so you have your story is essentially the setup of the discovery of these these elements or chemicals or whatever you
and
wanna call
we
them.
get to where they'll kind of use this, but yeah, it really is the setup. This is kind of just the discovery of it. So and to keep kind of moving it along, like he is essentially just put on board a ship, taken to Earth. He is just an experiment, and I'm actually saying in this story he's an experiment for a long time. I'm going to say a good solid 20, 30 years. They're doing just unspeakable horrors.
You are
onto this
property
person.
of
Well,
the corporation now.
Yeah, you're interesting to the scientific community, and we can make you live forever,
Yeah.
or you already do. Like that's a pretty bad setup,
Yes.
dude.
Yeah,
You know,
it really
like
is.
I would hate to be told that it's just like, yeah, we really just want to keep poking at you, and
Yeah.
you're gonna be around forever.
Keep
so
you for
we can-
observation.
we really want to know everything.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
right, exactly. And like that's where I was like I wanted to work that in, and like I don't have hardly any notes here, but as part of this setup, like he gets there and yeah, like they're trying to figure out, well, how the hell did this happen? You know, how can we make this work? We're just going to say they've like a couple other of the miners went and did a fat rail, who knows, maybe they just died. You know, there's some kind of, and I don't even have an answer for this, but like there's some kind of stopping point where it doesn't work for everyone in this raw fashion, you know what I mean? Like you can't just scrape your helmet on it and you're immortal. It doesn't just work like that for everyone. So they're trying to figure out how the hell can we recreate this. And that's like, you know, most of the experiments, but I see them being very inhumane. And like, you know, one doctor in particular, like who will kind of resurface later, I see him being like, you know, extra cruel, you know, like however we can make this work. Again, I don't really have any notes for that part.
This could go a million different directions too, though, because I'm picturing if you were a scientist and you're supposed to, hey, this guy inhaled this new chemical or whatever, come take a look at him, what's going on, and you find out he's not aging.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you be like, do you have any more of that stuff?
Right. Yeah.
You know, like
Exactly.
you'd almost like the scientists are
I'm
now
gonna need
like,
to do some further research.
I want
here.
what this guy's got, you know, kind of thing. And it's just like everything wrong with this guy is great.
Yeah. Right.
You know, like I feel like you would, you know,
On surface level, there's no negative side effects, but when you become that test subject for who knows how long, then all of a sudden it doesn't sound like such a great deal that you
Yeah.
accidentally stumbled upon.
but if
Yeah.
you've been following this guy for 30 years, now you're getting old. You know what I
Right.
mean? Don't you think you'd be like, where was that stuff that he breathed?
Right.
Right.
You know, like, because this guy's doing way better than I'm doing.
Right. So, you know, like, anyways, after, you know, a good amount of time, you know, like, I don't know how many years, like, it's not super relevant, but a long time being experimented on, he is eventually going to be moved to another location. And I do, like, I mean, we can gloss over this, like, I'm looking at the time here, and it doesn't really matter. Essentially, I wrote a bit of, like, an escape from the spaceship that he's on. Like, it's pretty generic. You know, something happens that, like, you know, causes massive damage to the ship. He gets to the escape pods, and nobody's around, so he's like, I'm going to get the hell out of here. You know,
I
and
feel
I'm going to
like
crash
there's
land on
that
Mars.
the war is happening over the unobtainium between like the tribal people that didn't want to be the slaves for the company and the corporate people that are, you know, like they hired armed guards and everything, all the transports of this material back to the factory to like process it and refine it or whatever. Maybe that ship, that transport is what he's on, and then it gets attacked by or you know, like somebody plants a bomb on there or something to disrupt the transport.
Yeah, maybe. Like, maybe they just wanted, you know, David, because they just somehow found out about him. Like, hey, you know, that's not even in here. I had it as just kind of like a random event, because, like, the story sucks. But, you know, like that.
Well, no, I will say what he was just, what Savage was just talking about, and the tribal people and on the New Earth too, and all that kind of
I'm
stuff.
getting
I was
like Red Faction vibes.
well, I was
from
saying there,
this
I was
basically.
like, this is the better movie. This is
Yeah, it really is.
to picture.
You're
that
welcome.
There's these tribal people, but they're like, we got to get more of that stuff. Like
Yeah.
we've all started aging again. We haven't had it in a month or whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the struggle. And then we just keep going back to this guy who first breathed it, and it's just like,
This isn't the good movie.
we
I
don't
know.
care. Like,
I know. I would throw tomatoes at this too. I
whatever
know.
with the cruise staff.
Yeah, why are we back with David Andrews, that butthead?
David Andrews, his name's even boring.
It is, I know. I know. He's no Edward Scurvy. Go watch The Cryptid for
Jack
for more on that
Hardball.
one. Yeah, he's no Jack Hardball either.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Nobody's Jack Hardball.
Or Kyle. All right, that's enough.
Yeah. So, you know, like we have this escape, whatever, you know, and in here, this is how bad it starts to get. I actually wrote in that, you know, eventually when he crash lands on Mars or whatever,
Please write a movie next time.
I know, I'm sorry. I brought a good concept. That's good enough. We're not going to finish it.
I mean, you seated us, and we went off on a tangent, and then you go, all right, now here's the story. And
Yeah.
we're like, huh?
I'm
The-
sorry, but we're going back to my notes.
The guy's been getting experimented on for 30 years. It's like, enough.
It's a bummer, and we're going to hear about it.
All right, then what did they do to him?
Yeah.
Tell us. Give us all the details.
I don't know. It's probably just a lot of needles and probes. it's not good. That's
Really
my,
let us have it.
that's my hell. I don't want that. All right. So yeah, he crash lands on Mars, like, but then we have this stupid convoluted turn where he eventually he's gonna reveal that he's more of like. He's got a past where he was like smuggling things between Earth and Mars. So he has some connections that he can like. Essentially, right now he's escaped from these people that have been experimenting on for so long. He just wants to get the hell out of there.
He
get
wants
back
to get out of there
Earth
and be Han Solo.
Yeah.
Is what you're telling
Does
me.
That'd be better than what
He's
I
a
have.
space smuggler.
Does he know what the catalyst is that made his experience different? Obviously, like, it was an accident at the time, but maybe like he also had like a genetic disorder, or like had like some kind of like consumed some kind of substance that reacted with the space dust.
I mean, they've just been shoving needles up his ass for like 20 years, so I don't think he's had a lot of time to.
But like
connect the dots.
maybe he like kind of has an idea of this is why it's happening, and I don't know. Never mind.
No, that's probably better than what I have.
I just gotta say,
This poor dude.
the fact that you're presenting the movie but also hate it gives me a great idea. It'd be funny if there was like a narrator that was like, all right, and now the dumbest thing ever is about to happen.
Can't wait till you see this shit.
Like if you watched the movie and the narrator hated the movie, like it would be very entertaining. I don't think anyone's done it.
Everything that everyone else has brought here has been better than what I have in these notes.
But we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, we are. Unfortunately, we're getting somewhere in the story.
Savage and I are getting somewhere.
So anyways, like, yeah, we establish this stupid backstory, and then he hides out on Earth for like, I'm just gonna say like 60 years.
Do they call it Earth 1?
No. No, they don't.
All right, okay.
But no, like I see one actually good concept that I did kind of like in this crappy part of the story is that.
All right, stop being so hard. Now I feel bad. Stop being so hard on yourself.
He becomes like a martyr, like almost like a religious figure for the tribes that are still on the planet.
Yeah, where were you?
Like he needs to be he's the symbol of freedom and everything that they're fighting for.
No, like I have him as basically like, no, this is one concept I actually did kind of like here. If you're trying to hide out, but you're also immortal and you're trying to like, clearly not be in public eye, whatever, you're going to not be aging. Like it's going to eventually show up. So like, I actually liked the concept, and I didn't really have much for it, but him kind of bouncing around to different places.
Just get a bunch of disguises.
Like every like 10, 15, 20 years, he like moves to a new area, so nobody knows who he is.
Yeah.
Like, because eventually, like, 20 years from now, I'm going to kind of catch on to you're not aging.
So this is not at all what you're doing, but there is actually a great movie I'd recommend called The Man from Earth.
Okay.
And it's about, I guess as a spoiler to give the full synopsis, but I'll just do it. Just please skip this if you really care. But it's a great movie. It's mostly dialogue, but it's a guy who's like a college professor, and he's retiring. He's still fairly young, and he's moving. But he is essentially a caveman that never aged past like the 20s.
Okay.
Or like 20 years oldish, and he has lived forever, and he just like has all the stories of like, yeah, I remember when religion started popping up, I remember when this happened, and he does the same thing where he moves so often. But this movie is all about him confiding in all of his other professor friends, and they're all experts in their own fields, is what makes it great. Is that he's telling them a story and they don't believe him, so they can combat him with their logic, and he always has the answer. And it's a very great movie, The Man from Earth. Check it out. Sorry, we're gonna get back to this one.
Yeah, sorry, we're gonna get back to this steaming pile of notes. So yeah, that's probably much better.
He said he spilled water on him before he came over. His notes are actually tainted.
Yeah, they're wet and like my ink's running out.
I'm starting to think it was self-sabotage, and he wanted a reason to say I can't read these notes, but he didn't have enough water on
Oh
him.
man, these notes, they're so wet. Who could read this?
Looks like we're not doing it.
Anyways, I mean, I don't even know where we're at with this, but it doesn't really matter. We're
talking about two different movies.
we're talking about so many different movies here.
They're great ideas.
Let's flesh it out.
There's a lot of great movies. We'll come back and revisit this episode later when we need inspiration.
So at this
join
point,
the Discord, and
Yeah.
you can chime in and help us complete some of these movies that we're talking
please.
about.
Get your keyboard ready. You got a lot of typing to do to finish these ones.
Yeah, especially this one. So anyways, like in this, it gets worse. So here I have him essentially. It's like borderline. He's almost a terrorist because he's joined this group that is like trying to strike back. Like, I mean, you could really look at it like that. He's trying to join this group that's striking back at these corporations that they know are doing this like really shady stuff. So they're trying to, like say they found like a lab that's experimenting and just cruelty, whatever, somewhere. They're gonna bomb it. They're this kind of people, and unfortunately, that's where the story is going. So, so buckle up. So now he's joined this group, and like it's just this random crew, and I have no named side characters. It's nothing. That's how much thought I put
back
into it.
on Earth now.
Yeah, he's back on Earth.
Okay, and the group that he's joined, they are not. They're still aging normally.
Yeah, they're still aging normally. We'll say he
Does
hasn't been up
anybody
long.
on Earth have access to this space dust?
No, and
Not
we're about
yet.
to get to that. That's one thing I liked. I do have a pretty big time gap. And like honestly, I'll just kind of keep moving along here. So the reason for that is like one day like he's kind of sitting down. He's like it's shore leave for his stupid terrorism, and he's just sitting at the bar watching some stuff come on, and all of a sudden a newscast comes on, and it's basically talking in their top story is like announcing that a company, his old company, has discovered the secret to immortality. Mm-hmm. It's just being announced this far later. And, and then what I kind of alluded to earlier, they announced that this isn't something you can just purchase. It's something that you have to sign up for this 1,000-year contract
At least
to work for them.
You have to work it off.
Yeah. But you're completely like under their control.
That's another kind of dystopian corporate idea is imagine that products start coming out that they're like, no, we don't even want you to buy this. Like, get in the mines.
Right.
Yeah, you're an employee for
like,
us.
that's an interesting... dark.
Yeah.
Another movie yet.
Yeah, exactly. There's some nuggets in here that are decent.
I'm gonna listen to this episode when I'm having trouble coming up with my ideas. I'll just be like, "There's something in there we all forgot about it. I'll just do it."
Yeah. So yeah.
No way they'll remember this one.
So they that report comes over. That it's whatever, and obviously he's like, "Holy shit!" Like he's probably been expecting this for a really long time, but it's today's the day, and like, it came up. So, he doesn't really know what to do. He's kind of like anxiety's through the roof. And like, he eventually is like, okay, like I got to tell these people, I got to tell the rest of my crew. And cause, in his mind, like we got to stop these people. Like I know what they'll do to people that you get their immortality. Like they're whatever, like they're going to be experiments. Like it's going to be bad.
I've been down that road, and trust me, you don't want to go there.
They're not good people.
Yeah, they're not, so he eventually convinces them like, hey, we need to stop these people. Like there's nothing good here. There's going to be a bunch of back and forth where they're trying to like, how do we really believe you're immortal? I don't even know how to prove it. So like, I don't really have anything in the story, but he proves it, however, and gets them on board. So yeah, that's how good this is.
So he's still, his physical body is still, susceptible to damage, but the aging process and like sickness isn't an issue.
Yeah,
right?
we got to cut out illness. Or at the
Yeah.
beginning of the episode, we said that you could still get sick. That's got to be gone. You got to be paying for essentially non-aging, and you're getting your optimal form.
Yeah, I just kind of figured that like if they're gonna go through all this to make somebody
Norton
immortal, they're gonna support
antivirus.
them.
That's the company, Norton.
Yeah, Norton is the one who discovered it. They're getting into the medical field, and you can't get sick. They keep you you can do a rollback on your health.
Yeah.
If you have any issues, you can say, well, let's just go back 3 months.
Yeah, what's my extended
Let's
warranty?
go back 3 months before that incident,
Um,
before your exposure to that chemical.
so
Clear your cookie cache.
yeah, have you checked your browsing data?
Let's do a rollback before that prostitute.
Yeah, please reset that.
Let's just go back, please.
Before you downloaded all
Please,
those
so much.
MP3 files on Kazaa. This way back.
Bearshare, LimeWire.
Yeah,
I used all of
remember.
them. They were great.
Oh yeah. All right, we got to finish this piece of shit. All right, so the crew, like, eventually, I see actually a pretty good time gap here where they just can't find any information on where they're doing any of this nefarious shit that they feel that these guys are up to. So, like, they're doing a lot of digging, a lot of intel gathering, I want to say for years, and really the years is just kind of, like, allow the company to kind of progress further and further on, like, their side and, like, not visible to ours. So, that happens, and finally, obviously, they get, the information that they need. They sit down, they try to, like, okay, We know there's this facility out there, you know, like whatever that they're up to, like it looks like they're, you know, manufacturing this stuff there. This is where it's happening, to where like they're making this immortality crap. That's what we got to do. We got to blow this place up. So, you know, like without getting into a bunch of stupid shit for their idea, they're going to just set a bomb at this place. They're going to figure out how to attack it.
Because the corporation's evil, or because they disagree with immortality?
Both, actually. Like, you know, that actually is a good part that I don't think we touched on earlier.
Like,
is
it
that I think
really
there
for
would
the
be some
greater
people
good
against
of
it.
humanity?
I feel
for,
like there's
some people to be immortal.
I feel like there'd be like a scientific argument of like, hey, we already have, look at all these overpopulation issues we're having that we described at the beginning. And then there'd probably be like a religious angle too,
right,
of like, you know, people being like, this is not God's plan, blah blah
right.
blah.
Yeah,
know?
I see a lot of that stuff in my original idea. I saw a lot of that in there.
Yeah.
It didn't make it. Like it just didn't make it into the story.
This
I
is
don't know
like Dune meets Total Recall meets V for Vendetta, kind of.
With Godzilla playing in the theater next door.
with a better movie playing somewhere else.
Quit calling Godzilla the better movie. I mean, I know you're being hard on yourself, but
we got some gold in these pages.
I know, it's just this is a very disjointed story. Like I kind of knew that. I just had to finish it, you know, like
you've had some very thought-provoking ideas, but the story itself is like, it's like the whole time I'm just like, can we please just talk about the other movie?
I know. I'm with you. I wanted to write the other movie. It's like,
you
could have. I could have. I didn't, because it just didn't translate. I don't know what happened.
All right.
So, anyways, and we're gonna breeze through this ending here, and like we can come up with our own endings here. Like
we are.
We have many endings we still need to tackle.
Yeah. So, anyways, they get to this facility. Like, you know, like I had this as like they did a distraction type plan. So they create a diversion. There's some kind of explosion somewhere else. Because the thought behind that was like, well, they need to distract whatever guards they have there. They're going into this thinking that this isn't that big of a place. You know, this bomb's going to kind of wipe it out, whatever. You know, so they're not expecting a lot of resistance. Because this is supposed to be like top secret stuff anyways. They get there, create their diversion, you know, they essentially send in their teams through, you know, like whatever entry point that they chose. You know, we'll just say there's 2, maybe 3 teams that kind of break into this place, set different bombs, you know, whatever. So Team A is, you know, heads into
the goal
one
is
area.
to disrupt the production process.
Yeah, they want to destroy this place. They're assuming like this material is there too. They want to get rid of that. You know, they don't want that to exist.
But wouldn't a big mushroom cloud of the immortality space dust just make everyone in the area immortal?
I mean, that's a good point, but I mean, they're gonna kill everyone there, and it's on like a random, like, you know, randomly, like, we'll just say it's on a moon of like Jupiter or something. You know, it's just something like that. Maybe it's on an asteroid somewhere. It's just a facility.
So there's
that's
nobody
just
to benefit from the breaths.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
So they get in here, and like, you know, the plan starts to go sour pretty quick. You know, like essentially the team, you know, we'll just say the first team gets a call from like one of the other teams, like, hey, you know, we've been spotted. They're basically picking us off. It goes silent. Like the other team's, okay, shit, they're dead. You know, so they're starting to freak out. Like, okay, well, we just got to set the bomb. We got to get the hell out of here. You know, when they're in this room, I did like the thought, and this has been done before, but still, like, I feel like it'd be like a decent camera shot of like the room starts to kind of like open up a little bit, revealing this gigantic cavernous place that like they had no clue was there. And in there is a giant spaceship. We at this point can call it the cruise ship if you want, but that's the idea of it. It's this giant ship that they didn't even know existed was there, but also next to it is tons and tons of people. And like they're kind of getting like, you know, looked over, like examined or whatever, and they can only think, fuck, these are the immortals right here.
They're waiting to board.
They've been at this for years. Like, we're too late.
They're drunk. They're just waiting at customs.
Yeah, exactly. We've already tapped into the rum. But no, like they, like, you know, they're assuming, okay, these people, like, they're essentially experiments, you know, like they're going to be taken away to this distant, you know, whatever planet the hell they're going to.
Earth 2.
This is the first wave of construction workers, basically, you're saying? Or this is
or no, it
this
sounds
is
like
the
these
rich
are the rich
people.
guys.
No, it could be anything you want in this point, honestly. Like, I still feel like it has to have that 1,000-year contract or more attached to it to like make you want to do the immortality in the first place, but I don't see them as good bosses. You know what I mean? Like this is not going to be good for them.
I see that as it's a rough trade-off, but in the end you would come out ahead if you were 20 and they were like, you're going to spend 1,000 years working on this, but in your 20s.
Yeah.
You're healthy and you're 20 the entire time. For 1,000 years, that's already a benefit. Even if you're working, that's a benefit that the average person doesn't get.
Yeah.
And then once you land, we still have more work for you. You got to build the thing. And then when you're all said and done, we'll give you 10 free years of the subscription. And I think that's honestly a pretty straight deal to be like, I'm going to be on the new planet with the resort built, and I'll have been 20 for 1,000 years, and then I get to be 20 for another 10 years, and then I'm already on the new planet.
Yeah.
That's a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah.
If you were like kind of a like free-flowing 20-year-old, you know?
So anyways,
they're not so evil.
They're evil in this story, at least. So, you know, like...
I mean, did we establish, though, is it like, oh, yeah, you put in your 8-hour shift and then, you know, you can relax? Or is it more like we monitor everything you do and
so
you're not allowed to have, like, recreation time?
That's where the evil would come in.
Yeah. So in my original idea, I did think about the fact, like, you know, what kind of people would take this type of deal? And, like, I did kind of picture it as like, yeah, it might just kind of be like not the greatest situation, you know, as far as like you're doing some hard work on some like distant planet, like that's what you signed up for, but you still are in like a community of like immortal people while you're there. So it still would be like, you know, essentially a small city, you know, like kind of, that's how I kind of like originally envisioned it.
Well, imagine the bond you would have after 1,000 years of working next to some guy in a cruise line kitchen or whatever. Or it would go either way. Get me away from this guy. Please tell me he's not immortal anymore. Please tell me he's not immortal.
1,000 years isn't enough time for me to forgive him. But yeah, I see, like, you know, going back to cap off this crappy story. In the
enough.
Like, no, I'm gonna keep saying
it's okay. You got us going. It's doing its job.
So they like
if you had opportunity in between, you know, working during those days or whatever, you could still, you know, you can read, you can learn new things, you can develop new skills, and you have 1,000 years to do that. By the end of that, you're better off, like you said, you know, you're more experienced, you've got all these different tools at your disposal, and you've got at least, you know, your 10 years of the subscription.
And as long as you're not working around the clock, you're 20 years old around the clock, so like your downtime is pretty sweet. When you're 50 years old, or I guess 550 years old, and you're still feeling good, even when you're looking at these rich guys on the ship with you, you're going to be like, that guy's 60.
Yeah.
You're like, that sucks. Yeah, you have your money, but I'm 20.
Yeah, you're old.
You know
forever.
what I mean? Like, yeah, it'd be like you're 60 at best. You know? And that's what kind of what I see is like it would be a pretty, I mean, you'd offer me that now in late 30s and I'd be like, yeah, that's pretty good. I'll do that. You know?
All right. So David's team here, they escapes the, you know, they basically decide we got to escape. You know, they get out of this room. They're trying to get the hell out of there. They're confronted on their way out by, you know, a bunch of guards because obviously this place is way more inhabited than they thought. So I have it as like one by one his team starts getting killed, you know, until he essentially like gets hit with something, he doesn't know what, and starts to fade. But before he loses consciousness, he sees that same scientist, that same cruel doctor from when it was an experiment. He looks exactly the same. He's like, okay, so this guy, you know, like we got to think this guy's immortal too. Mm-hmm. And he just slips into basically unconsciousness. So, and to cap the story, I have him waking up and he's on the ship. The ship is just going, you know, so he's been essentially taken. And like, you know, this, you know, doctor, scientist, whatever, you know, spotted him, you know, as part of like the team that were breaking in, told his guys, hey, don't kill him. He's immortal. We're using him, you know, so he is basically put on this ship, and this is where he is going to, you know, serve for the rest of time. Mm-hmm. You know, he's being taken off to God knows where to basically, that's it. So all the good, quote unquote, good guys that I never liked to begin with, they all die, and David gets abducted to go work in the stars forever. The end.
You can listen on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Music, and anywhere you get podcasts. Watch our live streams on Twitch and YouTube. Hang out in the chat. Please check us out on social media. We're on most platforms. Thank you for everybody who's engaged and commented, liked, shared. You can find those links at linktree/WWFTpod. I'm sorry. Sorry to cap your notes off with that.
Oh, that was a perfect spot.
There's lots to unpack, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
good stuff in there.
Right.
At least.
Yeah, exactly. I think like the concept itself is actually great. Is like the story sucks, yes, but like but the story itself, or sorry, the concept itself, there is something there. Like I do feel like that's something you could turn into a pretty good story. It's just like this one, it just didn't translate.
I feel like you had a good concept, but you didn't get there. I feel like you were building it up, and it was, but it never branched out.
I think it's too
You know.
focused on David the whole time and not on humanity as a whole, on who would choose to go and do this, what that story would look like, what, developing the new planet location would look like.
Yeah.
The fact that, like, the corporation would be, like, shrinkflating their products each time, so you get, like, a little bit lower dose, and it would last, like,
4
a day
days.
shorter.
Yeah.
So and also it's like you said, it's focused on David and not humanity. Whereas like it's more relatable to, I think, to picture yourself as the like, would I work on? And obviously you said you hadn't thought of like the cruise ship analogy angle or whatever, but like I think that would be the more relatable movie for people. Would be like, man, would I do that? Would it be worth it? Kind of thing. Whereas like David's the one guy who was the first guy to have the chance of just being exposed to this thing, and that's way less relatable. You know what I'm saying? Like for the average person, where you're like, well, that wouldn't be me. The odds of it, you know, whatever. Whereas if you present an idea of like, look what this kid's doing, this is what people could do in this world, people would start being like, yeah, that would be fucking awesome. Or they'd be like, I don't know, maybe I don't know.
I feel like there would be a bunch of propaganda both on Earth, where all these like glamorous stories of, you can go and just serve this little bit of time and be a pioneer in a new colony or whatever and live forever and travel in the stars and stuff. They would paint it to be like such a glamorous choice, and then once you kind of like get into the grind, you see that it's a lot. It's not as neat and tidy as they make it down.
There's no going back, and you get to Earth 2 and it's full of tar pits.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh,
yeah,
I had no idea.
Oh yeah, this just is gonna suck forever now.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. So that's where, and I do like the idea of the and the propaganda angle too. There would be a lot of propaganda if we had like the debate between like, just go to Mars, no, Earth too. You know what I mean? There'd be a whole lot of like, look how awesome it is on Mars, and you get there and you're like, really should have went with Earth too.
I'm sure you're right.
That would have been worth the debt.
I think that the tribes or the people that tried to buck against that, the anti-corporate, I feel like that's what's really going to drive the story, and that David guy would kind of become a martyr, a symbol of, look what that corporation's willing to do, that like whoever's in control of this unobtainium, they're, they're the ones that are making the rules, or they're going to be in power for the foreseeable future.
Forever.
Especially if they're
immortal.
If they're immortal and they're controlling that supply of it. So the only thing that they can do, especially if they're on the planet that's being mined from, is basically like guerrilla style sabotage, or trying to like pillage those resources and utilize them somehow for themselves or for that resistance against them.
And that's where the tribe, like the black market angle we mentioned earlier, would come in. Is like, you see these people that branch off. They're like, we don't want anything to do with this corporation, but we're going to, we still want to be immortal, obviously. So they know it's right there in this factory that they can see. That would be the terrorism start.
Yeah.
Would be like, we got to blow up that building because they won't give it to us. Or they would create the black market where people are, providing it to the tribe or something. It'd be like an argument of like, we know they're out there. It's a humanitarian thing. Why would we let people die when we don't have to let people die anymore?
Right.
Well, it's like there's shady like plastic surgery operation. Like you can pay like the full price and get it done right from a reputable, healthy place,
or you can go to Miami.
Yeah.
Go down a dark
just
alley in Miami.
Go just over the border to wherever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well.
not only are we not going to finish this podcast, I feel like we have more work to do than when we started.
Yeah, I think so too. Somebody's got to clean up this mess.
Yeah, we'll sort it out. Maybe episode 100 we'll come in and write all these movies.
Yeah, there we go.
So
yeah, it's a good concept. I hope everybody listening enjoyed the concept because like that really
there was many.
Yeah, there was many. Like I liked it going into writing this, and it didn't translate, but that's all right. You got something to think about later.
Yeah.
So.
You have a lot to sort through yourselves.
Yep.
Yeah, the concept's better than the execution. That's just how it goes sometimes. I feel like the ideas that we chimed in with, though, you kind of like get a good, kind of more well-rounded picture of this scenario.
Yeah, hopefully it was thought-provoking.
Yeah.
And we'll, I mean, so we won't finish this podcast.
Yeah.
This is what you consider the early stages of a writer's room.
Yeah, we never said they were good movie
Bouncing
ideas.
things off the wall. Yeah, we just promised you a new movie.
Yeah.
So, and here's many. So, but yeah, is that it?
I think that's it.
Well,
all right. Well, play us off.
You can put that down.
All right.